All right, everybody, here we go. We are back after a nice little summer break, going over the new FAQ that just dropped. Let's rank up. All right, guys, I'm joined here with Cody. As we all know, new FAQ just dropped the other day. Nothing huge in the rule changes overall,
Nope.
at least in the main world. A lot of things answered, though, and I think Cody can agree. Some of them much needed answered questions.
Yeah, and I think there's still a few rules and rules changes that have not yet been answered. So we'll get to that. We'll talk about it, and maybe we can get somebody to help us figure that one out. But
right. So, well, then let's go. We're gonna start here with the today. All we're doing, guys, is the Old World main FAQ errata. This is where most of those questions were dropped and some things clarified. And as Cody said, some things not quite so much in the realm of things. So, so scrolling down, for those of you who were spooked, I know there was rumors floating around. If you didn't download the old FAQ, you would lose all that for your old copy of the rules. The answer is you didn't need to. So they kept everything the same. And the only thing new in that new printed rule book is instead of referring to these printout pages, they're all in the book. Otherwise, if you don't want to go buy the $70 book, keep your old one and print off the FAQ. You're good to go overall. So there's really only two rule changes. By the way, for anybody who has not looked at these in the past, this magenta color here is a rule change, and the blue is an addition or correction or clarification of a previous change. So we don't have too many of those. What we really have here is just on the rules. We only got two rule changes. And the first one here is on 289, this historical recreation. This is that, and I butcher that scenario name every time, but it's one of those historical battles, the Battle of La Angelie there, which the only real rule change, if you have Impetuous, you're taking -1 to your leadership check on testing to see if you have to declare a charge or not, which, correct me if I'm wrong, was kind of how Impetuous worked in older editions a little bit for those few units that had it.
yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think that's just this scenario kind of refers back to those older editions, maybe, but only if you're playing this scenario, right?
Yeah, it's only this scenario. It's nothing else, not the general rule. It's just that scenario over there. So simple change there. And then here's a big one, at least for those who do Grand Melee. Cody, what do you think of this? So in addition to everything else, nothing else has changed in Grand Melee other than the addition of no single unit may contain more than half 50% of the total number of models, not points, models in your army.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess there are some some builds that someone can take a ton of models in one unit and sit on objectives, or just give their opponent grief. But I don't know. It's a good rule, I guess. I don't know. What do you think?
I think this was to avoid like Death Star units running around on the battlefield. And I think this was particularly focused more for Battle March to avoid situations like, even though Battle March has its own setup, the rules imply you can still do like a Grand Melee setup with Battle March, and I think it's to avoid big giant Death Stars or run around, particularly if you're running like a Minotaur Horde army running around, to avoid just 2 blocks of giant Minotaurs running around in there. Now you're going to be forced to do 3 all of a sudden.
Okay.
But we'll see what changes it does. I found it interesting that it's not the total points, it's total models.
Total number of models is pretty big, especially if you're trying to I can see like Cathay
Yeah.
putting like one huge unit of Jade Warriors with all kinds of buffs and then monsters running around. So now I guess you can't do that anymore.
I would go with that too. And you know, this is going to affect, you know, we haven't talked about it, but this is going to affect those basic rank and file units. Like, I bring a lot of peasants on the field.
Yes.
Well, they make up about half of the army. They can't be in one unit. They got to be two smaller blocks running
Yeah.
around instead of one big block running around. So,
Well, yeah, those models are cheap enough where you can still have two large blocks, I guess, but you can't have one 50, 60 man block, I guess.
yeah. So, we'll see what the repercussions are. I think, especially in our local meta, I don't think we've had the problem of too many people running half their army in one block.
Yeah, and again, I think that I've seen one or maybe two lists. Again, I'm thinking of Cathay, maybe Chaos. There was maybe a Chaos list that had a large unit of warriors, and then just monsters basically after that. Won't be
Yeah.
able to do that anymore.
So guys, pay attention to that because that will be enforced at our events, particularly in every event for the most part. So guys, be aware of that little rule change. All right, so now this is where all the fuss and discussion and already debates are going on the local chat groups and Facebook pages of what these mean on some of these. So we'll kind of bounce back and forth here. So Cody will start us off with this first one, and we'll read the question, go the answers, and if it requires further deep discussion, we'll go from there.
Would you, if you don't mind, zoom in on the page so it's easier to read on the screen?
There we
Thank
go.
you. Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
So right there, that first one under general principles.
Okay, players have choices to make throughout the game. If both players have the same choice to make at the same time, who chooses first? The active player always chooses first. Sometimes this will be advantageous, sometimes not, but choosing first is the active player's prerogative. Yeah, that makes sense.
I haven't run across a problem with that, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
I think that's in line with a lot of other GW games that I've played, where whoever's turn it is, they get to make the choice of which units fight first, and it to their advantage and that sort of thing. So I guess that's what it's talking about. I don't know.
Well, and I'm assuming what this is, if each of you have like a special rule that's like a once per game thing, when do you do that? And
Yeah.
that can happen, and who gets to decide that first? I'm assuming that is what this is referring to, because it does say if they have choices to make throughout the game. So I'm guessing that's what it goes by.
Yeah.
Is those little situations. But like I'm like you, I've always been GW's had the long standing. If it's your turn, you have the prerogative to go first on whatever decisions may be. So,
Yeah.
all right. So here's our next one here. Can models choose to make an armor, ward, or regeneration saves if it has them? Choose not to make. The answer is no. If a model can attempt to make a save, it must. So, yeah. So I get it. There are times, very rarely, where it's like, just kill me. I don't want to do the saves because it's more to my advantage for me not to do these saves.
Yeah.
But you have to. You cannot willingly choose. Nobody's going to willingly choose to die. I mean, is the way I read that.
Yeah, and a large, at least in my experience, a large number of scenarios where this happens is your own unit is blocking you from charging your opponent. And you want your unit to die so you can charge a better unit in. And so GW's making it clear, nope, can't do that.
Can't do that. Sorry, guys. So pray the dice gods are against you and you roll crappy. And if you need some of that juju, just come take my dice for a little bit. They've been jinxing me quite a bit lately. So, all All right, moving on. All right, so here's one of those blue ones we were talking about. This isn't a new one. This isn't a change. This is an addition. Something that was ruled differently earlier, and now it's different than what they previous stated. So, go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, does a unit count as being obscured when some of the models within it are behind others? No, a unit cannot be obscured from the enemy by itself. Once more, models within a unit do not obscure the enemy from other models within the same unit. They either completely block line of sight or present no obstruction. Okay.
Can't use other units, guys, to hide stuff in
Yeah.
there to be obscured. Doesn't work that way, guys. So I know, and I think it's units that are skirmishing is probably the most guilty of this in many ways. But and
Yeah,
you
but
know,
that also works because there's always this kind of question. Well, do my skirmishers block line of sight? If from itself. So I'm glad that they clarified this, and I think we always kind of played it this way because you can kind of line up your skirmishers where they do have LOS in most cases.
yeah,
But this is good, and you can kind of take advantage of it too. You can kind of line up your skirmishers where they are blocking each other, but according to the rule, they still
they
don't.
can.
Yeah.
Yep. So I know that seems advantageous a little bit, but that's how it rules, guys. And I like I said, I don't think we've had that problem here, because the argument is if you're in a skirmishing formation, you're going to move to C. You're not in a line. You're not in a block, right?
Yeah.
But all right, moving on. Here down. All right, here we go. So, do magic missiles that require the caster to draw a line from their base require a target? The answer is no. As stated in the spell's description, draws a line from the caster's base. Any model in the line is hit by the spell. So Bretonia has it, if I remember right. It's called like the Lady's Wrath, if I remember right. It's you take 3d6, you roll it, and you add up the total, and that's the distance that you roll, and anything in there is gonna take a hit.
Yes.
In the line. That does not require a target, and I haven't had that argument. Maybe there's other spells that imply that you have to have a target, but I'm not aware of any, at least in the grand thing here. So,
well, I don't think there are many spells like that where you have to draw a line. Usually, a magic missile like Fireball, you just have a particular target and it goes after them, but there's no line. So I'm trying to think what other spells are there that besides that one.
I know vampire counts have a spell that
Like
allows
that.
them to do
Okay.
something similar to that.
Yeah.
And I think what we all got hung up here is the term magic missile.
Yeah. Is this similar to the way the warp fire cannon works?
I believe so.
Yeah, I've
don't
only
know
played against
100%
it
how that
once, and I
works.
have not studied the rules, but I know it used to be like that, and I think it still is. I like that it's consistent with magic missiles, having to draw a line, and like the warp fire cannon. It just makes the game so much easier to play like that.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Moving on.
If a wizard has a special rule that applies when they attack an enemy, such as Killing Blow or Armor Bane, is that special rule applied to any spells they may cast? Absolutely not.
GW and being snarky in their response.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great for Doppelganger, right?
Yeah. So it's yeah, be terrible, but it's rules only. And here's the argument, and I know we had this a little bit, but it was in a different situation. It wasn't with a spell, it was with a weapon, or with a character, and he had a weapon, a magic weapon, but the magic weapon doesn't have the rule. No, you don't get it. The weapon doesn't apply to the mount. The weapon only applies to the guy wielding it.
Yeah.
For it. So you have to this is the same thing, just with spells, right? You have Killing Blow and Armor Bane, but that does not apply to the spell you're casting. If the spell doesn't have the rule, sorry. Think of it like a magic weapon. It's the same thing. If it doesn't have it, or it does have it, does not apply to the mount. Just with spells instead. But all right, so if a wizard has joined a unit, can they cast from any rank, or must they be in the front rank? Unless they have a special rule that states otherwise, a wizard must be in the front rank or the first fighting rank of their unit to cast spells. Like all characters, wizards bring no benefit to their unit by sulking in the rear ranks. So there's only one exception that I'm aware of, and that's the damsel in Bretonia.
Yeah.
She has a specific rule that says she can go to the back and do whatever. Doesn't matter. It specifically says she can go to the back and cast as if she was in the front. I don't know. I'm not familiar of anybody else that has something similar to that.
No, but I can see where this might come up. Let's say my wizard is in the second rank or has refused to challenge and my opponent has put him in the back rank. I don't know why he would, but let's say that happens. You're still asking yourself, can I cast like self spells or something like that? And apparently you can't. So
yeah, unless you're Bretonia.
Yeah, unless
unless you have that
cheating Bretonians.
We got nerfed hard. So we're still good. We're still
hard is subjective.
But all right, I mean, I can see that. You don't want your wizard to get killed, so you retire him to the back. But if they have a self spell that benefits the unit they're in,
they can't cast it.
Yeah, you can't cast it. Sorry, unless you have a rule that says you can. And there may be one out there, and if there is, mention it in the comments. But
I expect that, you know, if a wizard is in the second rank because he can't fit in the first rank, right?
Yeah.
You know, command, characters, whatever.
And you can't have more characters than the unit type or the unit that it's in.
Yeah, but let's say your wizard's in the second rank and he still gets to make one supporting attack. That could be Doppelganger, and you can't attack him back because you're not in base-to-base combat. So I'm glad that GW clarified it because I can see where this might be abused.
Yeah. But it's made confusing by the blue, so go ahead.
Yeah, does a wizard that has joined a unit need to be in base contact with an enemy model to cast an assailment spell, or do they only need to be within the fighting rank? They do not need to be in base contact, but they must be in the first fighting rank. Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
because I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, you get charged by, say, a Chaos Dragon that has a 50 or 60 millimeter wide base.
I believe it's 60. Yeah,
60. Your wizard's hanging out on the corner. He's not touching the Chaos Dragon. He can still cast an assailment spell. I like that because he can still make an attack. Right? He's in the fighting rank. So
yeah, and so still get cast your doppelgangers. You get Hammer of Wrath. You still get to do those.
Yeah.
You don't have to be touching. But you get all the perks of being touching still to the unit.
Right. So. But you have to be in the first fighting rank.
Yeah.
And they've clarified that. So.
All right. Moving on, guys. Continuing on here. Try not to go too fast because there are a lot. So here we go. When a unit redresses the rank, must the width of the front rank be increased or decreased as equally as possible on either side? The answer is yes. The exception to this is when the width of the front rank is increased or decreased by an odd number of models. In such cases, one side of the unit will gain or lose more than one model than the other side. So your flag has to be in the middle, right? Or your command unit has to be in the middle, as close to the middle as possible. That is the thing. The only exception, if you're like me, and I know Cody does too, is a couple guys do it. You're like 7 wide, so you're an odd number. So your guy isn't going to be quite middle, but if you redress the ranks, you have to equally add to both sides.
Yeah.
But you can't extend the line way down away with your flag on the far right or the far left or whatever.
Right, nor so that you can avoid maybe hitting a unit on an overrun or something like that, or whatever charge. Yeah. No,
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you cannot readdress your ranks to avoid obstacles coming your direction, or for you to avoid obstacles.
well, you can try. It's just that you have to do it in a balanced way, and it may not work out as well. But yeah.
Yeah, and that is something that we've only had that applied once at one of our units, and as rules written, it wasn't clear by it. It didn't imply that it didn't imply that you had to when you readdress the ranks.
Yeah. I think it's just an understood thing that people have done, but I'm glad that GW clarified it. I think all of the opponents I've ever played, they've always done it, one on one side, one on the other, and then,
Yeah. And I think most of us do it without thinking, just because
it makes sense.
It makes sense in our brain. So, all righty, here we go. All right there, Cody.
When a unit wills, do you have to measure the curvature of its movement? No, simply measure the unit's movement in a straight line from the end of the front ranks furthest from the corner around which the unit pivots. Yeah, I like that they've clarified this, but that's kind of how I've measured, and I've seen a lot of other people measure. It just makes it easier, especially when you're trying to measure charge distance and so forth.
And I know this has caused arguments in the past a little bit. Where do you measure? And charges matter, especially when you have to wheel with the unit on that charge, and that gets kind of weird on how to do it. So furthest corner from what it's pivoting.
From the front rank of the front rank. Yeah, that's important.
Not the back.
Not the back, front rank. And that came up early on in a couple of our big games. I don't know if you remember that, but that you will from the back corner, and that's and I don't think anybody else thought that, but there were a few players who thought that. So I'm glad
there were a few, and in the book it specifically says you only measure from the front. Now I didn't talk about the curvature, but it says we only measure from the front when we measure distances and movement.
Well,
but
then
in the back.
In the book, it's also as clear as mud. So
that's true.
It's in typical GW fashion.
Yeah, it's true. The wonderful language of the English language.
The Necronomicon book that they've created.
Yeah. All right, so here we go. Whilst running down the foe, is the charging unit considered to be pursuing a fleeing enemy for the purpose of crossing the edge of a battlefield, etc.? The answer is yes. The unit that runs down the foe is very much pursuing a fleeing enemy whilst doing so. So in here, you are allowed to cross the edge of a battlefield if you don't end on the edge of a battlefield, right? I mean, that's the thing, right? Your corner is allowed to chip the edge and you don't have to remove it. But if you're running down somebody, yeah. You're running off. So, ta-da. All right, so here we go. One of those blue ones again that they ruled earlier.
Let's see. Some chariots are equipped with large-scale missile weapons, such as bolt throwers. Who shoots such weapons? The crew, the beast, the Stegodon shooting the bow. I love it.
Yeah.
That draw the chariot itself, or a character mounted upon the chariot. Missile weapons mounted on chariots, or howdahs, are shot by the crew using their ballistic skills. Yeah, I don't know that. Of course, there's not a lot of shooting chariots that I've seen people play with. In fact, I've played with, the Lizardmen, Stegodons, and so forth. I usually take Engines of the Gods, but I never thought that Stegodon was shooting the.
Well, and the only possible thing I could think of is that Stegodon has a ballistic skill, right? For whatever
reason,
it does. But maybe it uses its teeth to pull back the shirt. I don't know if it ever comes.
Well, let's just see what the ballistic skill of a Stegodon is, because I'm curious now. I mean, are people really trying to say the Stegodon shoot in it, so they're getting higher ballistic skill.
It's like ballistic skill 2.
Yeah, well, just give me a second. I'll find. You go to the next rule. We'll find out.
Yeah. So the crew shoots the things, guy. Not this, and the goblins have the same thing with the spider. The giant Ragnarok spider. They have that spiderweb catapult that can shoot, and I guess the spider is a better ballistic skill than the goblin.
The Stegodon does not have a ballistic skill. He has a dash.
That I couldn't tell you why they had to clarify that. Something else.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I'm sure there's some War Machine maybe that it's kind of iffy. I don't know. You said the spider.
Yeah. They can put a.
It has a dash as well for ballistic skill. So
I don't know what the argument. I guess. I don't know. I don't know what thing would do that. Then I have no idea. If you know, put it in the comments, guys.
Let's see the High Elf Sky Chariot.
Oh, what? The eagle has a ballistic skill?
I don't. Yeah. That's the
only situation I can. The only situation I can think of.
It does not have one either. Yeah.
I guess the only situation I can think of is if you have a spell or something that says they can't shoot. Who does it affect? The crew, the chariot, or whatever. Not that would matter. Still, it's still the same situation. If you know something different, put it in the comments below.
Yeah, I'm curious about that one. Why they needed to clarify it, but I'm sure there's a situation that they do.
All right, so shooting. A unit cannot stand and shoot if the distance between it and the charging unit is less than the movement characteristic of the charging unit. But if a unit is charged by 2 or more enemy units and only one is too close, can it stand and shoot at the other? The answer is no. If any of the charging units are too close to the charged unit for it to make a stand and shoot charge reaction, it cannot stand and shoot. I think this is a nice little clarification because you only get one charge reaction, right? So you got to pick what unit it is, and if I can pick the further one, I'm going to do that, right?
Yeah, I'm sure I've cheated several people on this amongst
I'm
other
sure I have too. I'm sure we all have.
Yeah, I'm guilty of this one. I can say that. I did not realize that. It makes sense.
I mean, it does. And I know as a fact that I've done the same thing. It's like, well, I'm going to the further one because I can shoot that one, the other one, and I haven't yet had anybody argue with me about it.
No, I'm sure people are like, well, I guess that's how it works, but no. Okay. I'm glad they clarified that because, you
don't get to do that anymore.
All right. Next rule. When are line of sight and cover determined for a unit that declares a stand and shoot charge reaction when the charge reaction is declared? Okay.
So, yeah, you only determine it when they declare the charge. No other time.
Well, yeah, and I can see where somebody because let's say, I mean, I know the rule is you don't get long range shooting, right? Yeah. You don't get any penalties from shooting at long range. You're considered shooting at half range, right?
Yeah.
But somebody can charge you from long range out of woods.
I mean, that's true.
And so what they're saying is if that's the case, then they get the cover, the -1 to hit, even though you're kind of shooting at the closer range.
At the closer range and you're coming out of the woods, they still get the benefit of it. So, I mean, that's a needed clarification in there. Not that I've had too many situations with that.
No. That hasn't come up very often, but I'm glad that they did clarify that.
All righty. Let's see. Scrolling down more. All right, so here we go. Now we're getting to the areas that have caused some discussion and debate. If a unit with the press of battle rule has not fought yet, models from the end of the first fighting rank will close in as described on 150 into base contact with the enemy. But can models from the second rank step forward into base contact and fight immediately? The answer is yes. As stated on 150, models cannot fight during the phase which they step forward into the fighting rank. However, models already in the fighting rank can step forward and close in as described, maximizing their number of attacks. So this is Press of Battle was in the 1.5 update initially, which pretty much said that you don't get one rank, you get two, right? If you get charged in. And you get to close in into base contact with it. But I think the argument was if I kill everybody on the very first rank, those second guys don't get to do anything, but they do.
And I'll be honest, I think that's, I mean, it's only come up a few times, but that's generally how I've played it in games.
Yeah, well, and that's how
where you only get one attack each. You don't get the maximum attacks.
Yeah.
This is really going to benefit Lizardman Warriors, Chaos with multiple attacks like Khorne, Chaos Warriors.
It's going to benefit anybody with low initiative too, real quick. That has a high, just because now they get to maximize their attacks on them.
Yeah,
and not
I mean, ogres, trolls.
So this is essentially almost canceling out the supporting attack rule in the front rank, because now you get to do it almost.
Yeah.
So it's. I'm sure it'll cause some debate, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand how it works. So if I kill most or all of the guys, or even just one of the guys that's in base-to-base contact with me, then you get to put somebody on the front rank, or somebody from the second rank can move up, and he gets he attacks as if he's touching already.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And okay.
Yeah. So that's how I'm reading this, right? But they cannot fight first. They step forward to the fighting rank. However, models already in the fighting rank can step forward as close in as described, maximizing their number of attacks. So it's going to be. This benefits infantry a lot, especially infantry with multiple attacks.
So. Yeah, infantry with multiple attacks. It definitely does, and there's not a lot. There are not a lot of infantry with multiple attacks, but those who have 2 attacks or more, again, I'm just coming to mind. Saurus warriors are going to benefit greatly. They're always going to get 2 attacks each, even though they have really low initiative, and
Yeah, and if we're wrong in that. Please listen to the description, guys. We're not experts by any definition.
We're just trying to figure out the rules, and most of the time we get them wrong. So
So how about that next one there right below?
Does Press of Battle apply to a unit's flanks and rear arcs, or just to its front arc? If a unit has and is able to use the Press of Battle rule, it can do so regardless of which of its arcs the enemy is engaged with. Yeah, again,
that's a new one.
Again, I don't know if they expected us to play this way, but I don't know of anybody who's played this way. It doesn't come up often, but it comes up often enough where, you just think if you kill the guys in the flank, nobody gets to swing back in the second rank. Yeah.
It's well, and I know way back too in older editions, there was always, at least in the areas I played, there was always the debate. If you get hit in the rear, whether it's shooting or whether it's an attack, do you get to use your shield at the same time if you have it, even though you're facing forward?
Yeah.
So this is one of those things that you get to use it regardless of where they hit you. They still get the they get the perks of the combat res, but the unit can still defend itself. In a fight. So this, I mean, if anything else, this helps infantry it helps infantry more because they're the ones that have it.
Yeah, and of course, if they're having to fight somebody in the flank or rear, that's bad news generally, and they're not going to get a lot of extra attacks, but it could make a difference. Yeah, and so once again, infantry becomes a little bit better because of this.
Yeah. So. Next one. A pursuing unit must directly. A A pursuing unit must move directly towards the fleeing enemy, but must it move forwards whilst doing so, or can it move sideways? As stated on 123, it must move forward unless performing a maneuver or when giving ground. This includes whilst pursuing. So I know this has been sideways is relative. Everybody thinks sideways and it means this, right? But I think what they're really trying to say, can I just do this into the next unit at an angle? And the answer is no. You got to move in the direction that the enemy fled, whatever direction it is.
Yeah, and so that means that you're going to do a turn or reform or something in that direction and go that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So
next rule, if a unit has to pivot before fleeing from an enemy it is engaged in combat with, must it make a panic test? No, as stated on page 125, units ignore other units while pivoting.
Peril test. Yeah, peril test.
Oh, peril test. Sorry, yeah, peril
that's
test.
that test. See if you take more wounds if you're fleeing through an enemy unit. All of a sudden,
yeah, and I've seen this played by a couple of guys online, a couple of pretty popular Old World battle report channels.
Yeah,
and they'll do that. And I'm not going to call anybody out, but yeah, and I always kind of looked at that and I don't know if that's how it works, but sure, if you want to play it that way.
But say I haven't had it or anybody try to enforce saying, oh, you're pivoting before you flee and you pivot through my unit, you got to take a peril test. Nobody said that. Now if I run through an enemy unit,
yeah,
now you're a peril
that's
test.
That's a whole different situation. But yeah, I've seen several battle reports where people do that, and I didn't think that's how it worked. I'm glad they clarified it. It seems a little harsh for the losing unit to also have to pivot through and potentially lose more models. So
yeah. So but all right, here we go. Here we go. The all-encompassing. This one has sparked much debate in our meta, and I will let Cody have the privilege of reading this.
Well, and I had this conversation with my brother yesterday, but if two units are engaged across a low linear obstacle, are they limited to making just a single attack because they aren't in base contact? No. Whilst the charge unit will become disordered, and whilst impact hits and stomp attacks cannot be made due to the presence of the obstacle stated above, and units are otherwise able to fight normally across a low linear obstacle as if they were in base contact. I'm sorry. I still, that's how I thought it was played, and that's how I argued that it was played. And I think this is just a clarification of what they intended and what the rules, and I know people are going to argue that's not what it says. And I'm like, well, if you
now it does.
If you read it a certain way, that's the way it says. And what this has done is made Earthen Ramparts the best spell in the game, and I just don't think it should be that good. You're already giving your unit a 5+, then you're giving them, I can reduce a Chaos Dragon, Chaos Lord on a Dragon's attacks to 1 or whatever, and it just doesn't.
You make the unit disordered, and you don't get impacts or stomps. And disordered is one of those rules that doesn't come up often in the game, even though it's there.
Yeah.
It doesn't come up super often, but it does hurt and it does affect you. It's just not, you don't get 1 attack now. Well, no.
Yeah, and it just seemed like too much. I mean, yeah.
So it's sorry guys there was more than 1 or 2 people that played it, especially in our area, the way that they only get 1 attack, but they've clarified it, and regardless what the book reads or can imply, because I will admit it's not the clearest rule in the world, it's clear now unless they redo it later. So yeah. But all right, here we go. Moving on. So special rules. Does placing a unit of ambushers into reserve count as deploying a unit? The answer is no. It does not. So.
Yeah, I guess who like Beastmen?
Beastmen get to do it. I think Wood Elves have a unit
Yeah.
They're war dancers, I think, or
Yeah.
something of that nature that has an ambusher unit.
Yeah, and I guess this is, just
And then
trying to
there's
get the
scenarios that allow you to put stuff into ambush too.
yeah. I
So
think this is, interesting, because if you're trying to get the +1, and that matters in some games,
mhm.
it really does. I've lost games because I didn't go first, and I think we all have, and so if you're trying to, especially for beastmen, being able to put a lot of ambushers, they're going to get the +1.
Yep.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Still gonna get the +1 if you have scouts, though, guys. Sorry, you negate it. Sorry, you give up going first.
Yeah.
So, all right, next one there.
When are ambushers placed in reserve, and when is this declared? If your army includes any ambushers that you wish to hold in reserve, set those units aside before deployment begins, making it clear to your opponent that they are ambushers and will be held in reserve rather than to be deployed with the rest of your army. Okay.
So, not only
Yeah.
do they not count as deploying a unit, but it's even before the game started, even before deployment starts.
Yeah.
It's its own thing. So that's why they had to justify the first one with the second question, saying that's why it doesn't count because it's done before you do anything. So, all right. So if a character is within one fighting rank, they cannot move through the ranks to join another. Might this prevent them from accepting a challenge? The answer is no. If a character is eligible to accept a challenge, they can do so wherever they are in a unit and will move through the ranks into base contact with their opponent. However, if it's awkward to move a model, it's quite acceptable for players to agree it has moved and fight the challenges as if the combatants were in base contact, thus avoiding too much disruption.
Yeah.
I found it interesting they had that little second part because I don't think I've actually ever moved a piece out of the unit to a challenge in the middle of gameplay just because to save time. But
Yeah. Yeah, well, this is if a character is within one fighting rank, they cannot move through the ranks to join another. And I can see this as if you have enemy in the front and the back, or enemy in the front and the flank, or something like that,
yeah,
and your character's on the front rank, but you're being challenged by somebody on the flank.
well, and this is a little, and I agree because in the rule, it's because characters have the right to move through the ranks, right? They can do that.
Yep.
But it does state that you're tied in to one thing. You get hit on the flank. I can't move
Right.
it over to the corner to go either split my attacks or do whatever. I can't do that.
Now, I will say this, that of all the games I've ever played, we've never played it where your character was pinned in and it could not accept the challenge. He could always accept the challenge. And I think that's the spirit of the game. It's it's meant to be played.
I haven't had this here. I've had it once at a tournament that I went to, and it was reversed. I struck him on the front and the flank, and my guy on the flank extended a challenge because he has the gauntlet, and he can't refuse. And the argument was, well, he's tied into a rank of combat, so he can't move. And the TO ruled in his favor. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to fight. It's fine. I mean, it didn't end up the outcome of the game, but it was like, all right, whatever. Well, now, that doesn't stop your guy. Sorry.
You've got some vindication. You can go back and say, look.
Yeah. Right. I've already done this. I already texted out and say, hey, look for next year.
I forget nothing.
So.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
Can a drilled unit redress the ranks before making a countercharge charge reaction? Yes. Yeah, I mean, this has always been, that's how we play it. I think this is just making sure everybody realizes that, countercharge is also a move. And it says if you have drilled, then whenever you make a move, you can redress the ranks before. It's very powerful. And I think that drilled, especially for Empire, Chaos to some extent, and High Elves, Dragon Princes, is very, very good. but
Yes.
and a lot of units that have drill.
Yeah, well, a lot of cavalry units. If you're elves and empire, everybody else, and chaos.
Yeah.
If, we don't have that in the Bretonian thing.
We have so many other
Raised from
crap
childhood.
units. This is all that we get something. So.
But yeah, I mean and I think countercharge is one of those most overlooked rules in the game, and it's a move. It's a charge. It's what it is, and it counts as a move. And I think that was the argument: is it an ability for drill to be done, because it's technically a charge reaction. So, and it's the only one of its kind, right? Because everybody else, you either flee, stand or shoot, or you hold ground. And countercharge only exists in cavalry. So. All right, so here's one. Can evasive unit use that special rule whilst engaged in combat or whilst fleeing? The answer is no. And I've seen this done at tournaments and argued. If you're stuck in combat, you're stuck in combat, dude. If you're fleeing, you're too busy running for your life to evade somebody charging you or coming through you. I mean, so.
Yeah, that is, yeah, they're extra evasive, I guess. Yeah, I was just wanted to look up the rule because I don't have like Shadow Warriors or other units that have evasive. So once per turn, when a unit in which the majority of models have the special rules declared the target during the enemy shooting phase, that unit may choose to fall back in good order, fleeing directly away. Once the unit has completed its move, the enemy unit may continue with its shooting as declared. I guess if you're fleeing and you get shot at.
I mean, if you're fleeing a unit and you get shot at, you can. I do know.
No. I don't think you can, because it says while it's fleeing. I'm just trying to figure out how this even came up as a question, and maybe that's what it was.
Well, lone characters, when a character's by themselves and they're not when they're not on a mount, they can evade, right? That's in their rules.
That's right. Yeah.
But you can't if that character is stuck in around in combat or be.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It says clearly that yeah. So
it's one of those. I think this was more to characters than units specifically. And I've seen this done at tournaments with characters. This whole argument to avoid a unit overrunning into their thing. So
yeah.
But
all right. Let's see. Next rule: if a model has Killing Blow or Monster Slayer, does a roll to wound of a natural 6 cause an enemy to lose all of its remaining wounds, even if that enemy would normally be too tough to wound? No. If a model cannot wound an enemy, it cannot kill it.
And like that, Killing Blow and Monster Slayer got nerfed.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's, and I've been around GW, and they, the one thing that they've stuck with is their to hit and to wound chart.
Yeah.
They've adjusted it a little bit over the years, but it's pretty much stayed the same throughout tons of editions. And I like that. That's a big part of the game, and so forth. But I think one thing that we have to realize is that to hit is different than to wound. To hit is usually, even a 6 is always a hit.
Yeah.
But to wound, a 6 isn't always a to wound. So if you have strength 2 and you're going up against somebody who has toughness 6 or 7, then you're not going to be able to use that Monster Slayer sword to kill it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not that you're probably going to put that Monster Slayer sword on a strength 2 or 3 character anyway.
Right.
But if they have prime example, what is it? Chaos has Nurgle and a spell that buffs up their toughness, and they can easily toughen something up from 7 to 9, and it's not going to affect them anymore, right?
Right.
Undead have something similar to that, so it's just one of those things that they can. Now that's in your benefit. So
yeah, well, and I like it because it gives you an opportunity to take away somebody's ability to kill your big monsters.
Yeah.
If you have that something to decrease their strength.
Well, and I have a sneaky suspicion, as we'll see in our other videos here, that this is specifically put there, and we're going to see an increase in monsters and giants on the table because they've also increased. We'll see it. They've increased their toughness on a couple of things. So on there. So I have a sneaky suspicion this was to encourage bigger models on the table. Like GW typically does, especially now they have the new two-headed dragon that released. All right. If a unit of scouts is deployed completely within my deployment zone, can they be deployed within 12 inches of an enemy? And can they charge in the first turn? No. Regardless of where they are deployed, a unit deployed as scouts must abide by the rules for deploying as scouts. So if you're using the scout ability, no, you can't. Sorry. You have to follow all the rules of scouts. Which I don't know anybody, and I'm assuming this is more because of Battle March. The tables are smaller all of a sudden, and to avoid that. All righty.
Let's see. I'll start on the left here. Does a unit with move through cover discard the highest dice when making a charge roll if charging through terrain? Yeah, this came up in a game recently, and we weren't sure how that was played. And I think we played it correctly. But I'm glad that they clarified this. Move through cover is good. Very good for
Move through cover is good. It applies when you charge. So no, you don't remove your highest dice roll. I mean, it's I don't think I've had that situation before, especially because either everybody who has moved through cover is purposely to get out of their cover before they declare a charge to avoid that problem, or it just has never been a situation yet. So, but this is going to benefit wood elves in particularly quite a bit. So over here, if a stubborn character joins a unit that is not stubborn, and that unit loses its first combat of the game, does the character remain stubborn until they have an opportunity to make use of the rule later on? No. Stubborn is used the first time a unit loses combat. If a character is unable to use the rule due to being part of a unit that is not stubborn, the opportunity is lost. So there's very few characters in the game that grants a unit stubborn. Renegade Crowns is one of those. Right? They have an ability to do that. And stubborn, again, at the beginning of this edition, most underrated rule ever. The most underrated.
Well, it was a lot different than what it was in the past, but because of the fall back in good order, give ground, stubborn is really good now.
Yeah, stubborn's really good. So I mean, it's
just an automatic. We're not running away. Yeah.
Yep. Ignore break. I don't care if I lose 50% of the unit. We're gonna fall back in good order because I can do that with stubborn. But if the character doesn't grant it, they don't get it. And if you don't use it, it's gone. So use it, guys. Use it or lose it. All right.
Can a model make more regeneration saves than it has wounds remaining on its profile? No. When a model makes a regeneration save, it makes one save for each wound lost.
I think this is regeneration more confusing almost.
Yeah. And I haven't. This is the first time I've read the rule. I've heard from 3 different people about this rule though. So let's see if we can't figure this out, because I think that they've made it somewhat clear. Okay, somewhat.
Yeah. So here's the question that's been the debate of the topic that on almost every chat.
Go ahead. Yeah.
If a chariot, we're going to say a Tomb King chariot, has 1 wound, right? Yeah. And he took wounds, he failed his armor, and he's down. So he has now 3 regen saves to make. Does he only take 1 of those and it's done and he ignores the other 2? And all of a sudden, or does he doesn't matter. He's going to die outright because there's 3 wounds, but he only has 1 wound left.
Yeah.
That's the question. And that's the debate. So what does that mean?
Yeah. All right. So there are a couple of different interpretations, right, that we could get from this. Can a model make more regeneration saves than it has wounds remaining on its profile? No. Okay, so let's say 3 wounds are done, but there's only 1 wound left, right?
Mm-hmm.
When a model makes regeneration saves, it makes 1 save for each wound lost. Okay, so the model has lost the wound, right?
Yeah.
And so they make a save. And it seems like that's the way it is, right?
Yes.
That if they do make that save, then they get that wound back, even though 3 wounds have come.
Have snuck through.
Yeah.
That's how I would rule it. So you can do 10, but if he only has 1 wound left,
yeah,
the other 9 are gone because there's nothing left to wound.
right.
And
unless it successively keeps doing it.
Yeah.
So you've saved that. Now the other 2 wounds, we've got. You could lose that wound again, and you could lose it. No. Yeah, I think that's the way it's they intend it, which makes regeneration somewhat good. But again, most regeneration is 5 or 6 or 6.
Yeah.
So we're still only talking about and what are the odds that somebody's going to do a ton of wounds to? I mean, I get it.
Well, and I think what it is too, the way I would see this is like you said, is so the 3 that got in, he only has 1 wound left, so he only has to make 1 of them to survive. And if he makes it, okay, he's alive. Yeah. But those other 2 still count for the combat res.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's just 1.
So
I think it's just 1. It's kind of like this. If you have a 1 wound model,
yeah,
and you do 3 wounds to it, the other 2 wounds are lost, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's the same thing for regeneration saves.
Which just
if you do 3 if you do 3 wounds, if you do 3 wounds to say 1 skeleton, right? You wouldn't expect the skeleton to make 3 regen saves. He only has to make 1 regen save, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that or wrong in thinking. It does make it.
The question comes from too, because, and this is where it's going to get into the debate, is those 2 that are lost. All of a sudden, now that chariot has a very real chance of not crumbling all of a sudden and surviving that thing in the combat res, right? Potentially.
It's a 5-6 regen, so it's a 1/3 chance. I mean, I wouldn't say a good chance, but has a chance.
Bretonia lives on 1/3 chances all day long.
On top of your 3+ armor save. Yeah.
Which doesn't matter much when you got things with like AP2 weapons against them. So
yeah.
But
I guess. Yeah, no, it does seem a little confusing. I wish they would have just kept it the way it was. I thought the way it was fine.
Yeah.
For every wound dealt to you, take a regen save. It seems like, and again, we may be completely wrong on this. It seems like if there's only 1 wound left, he only has to make 1 regen save.
And the others are lost and gone, and it doesn't matter. Yep. So I mean that's how, until someone could make a reasonable argument otherwise.
Is that how we're playing it at Rock Lobba?
This is how we'll be playing it at Rock Lobba.
Okay.
And that's
sounds good.
That's based on our reading of this thing, because
I'm interested to see how often it comes up. I don't think it's going to come up that often, as far as I got your big monster down to 1 wound and I just did 7 wounds to it and you only have to make 1 regen save. I just don't. Maybe it will come up a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, but we'll see if it does. But as of right now, that's how we're handling it at Rock Lobba. So you do 7 wounds, and he only has 1 wound left. He only has to make 1, and the other 6 are gone. Sorry, for it.
Do skirmishers have flank or rear arcs whilst engaged in combat? Willed skirmishers do form up when engaged in combat. They are not considered to have flanks or rear arcs for the purposes of calculating combat result points.
So this just made skirmishers better all of a sudden in combat.
Hold on a second. It just says they don't have. I've heard this rule from a couple of people too, but now that I'm reading it, I still think you get flank and rear bonuses. It doesn't say you.
But for calculating combat result points and a combat res, you get +1 in the flank and +2 in the rear. You don't get that if you charge to unit of skirmishers. So this just makes skirmishers really strong all of a sudden.
Well, I wouldn't say really strong. Outside of Pegasus Knights, are there really that many strong skirmishers?
I mean,
if my skirmishing Empire bowmen are in combat, I'm pretty much toast.
But like your shadow, correct me if I'm wrong, shadow warriors for high elves
are still gonna die.
Well,
they're T3, no armor save.
So, but I mean, all of a sudden you're not gonna have and I almost feel like this rule was put in there because of what's happening to Peg Knights as far as their line of sight. All of a sudden, in there. So, but continuing on, when a unit of skirmishers becomes engaged in combat and forms up, must any command group models it contains be placed in the fighting rank? The answer is yes.
Okay.
To be honest, I've only met a handful of people that put a command group in a unit of skirmishers. Unless you're Peg Knights, which you have.
Peg Knights, yeah.
You don't. I've only met one person that took
I don't know.
archers for Bretonia. He took a squad of 10 or 15 of them, and he had a full command in there. And it's like, what's the point?
Yeah, I definitely. I don't know about a banner. If you can take a banner with skirmishers, I don't know that there are many skirmishing units.
The Bretonian ones you can,
but
archers are a prime example.
I can see why you would take a champ to challenge out a hero. Charging in. And I can see why you take a musician to get the +1 for rally attempts and so forth, or a tie. Combat, get a +1 for combat res. But I'm with you. I don't see a lot of that, but that's an easy rule. Yeah, it goes to the front. Yeah.
So,
all right. What's next here?
Let's see what is next. There we go.
Fighting rank cannot contain more characters than it does rank and file models. In the case of a unit with oppressive battle rule, does that include rank and file models in the second fighting rank? No single fighting rank can contain more characters than it does rank and file models. It doesn't matter how many fighting ranks. How many characters are people putting in units?
A lot.
I guess. My goodness. Unless they're only going like 3 wide or 2 wide or something.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it says in the book, that the character has to go to the rear if there's no room. All of a sudden, in there. So
but
I mean, at Adepticon, I ran into where the guy had just. It was close. He was even of characters and rank and file units in the front rank.
Okay.
And he was 8 wide. So he had 4 characters in a single block.
Okay.
Which is a lot, but again.
We're talking about the second rank, though. That's crazy.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right.
But see, here's that clarification, that blue here. If a character is in any rank of a unit other than the front rank or the first fighting rank, and in the case of the unit engages in combat for any reason, do they confer any bonuses into the unit? No, not unless they have a special rule stating otherwise. Characters must lead from the front or retire to the rear. So, again, I think this really only applies to the Bretonian damsel. At that point, maybe I feel like there's a Tomb King character.
Maybe Skaven. Does Skaven lead from
Skaven,
the
well,
back?
yeah, what is it? Verminous Valor or whatever it is. They have
Yeah.
something like that
Yeah.
too, that they can refuse a challenge and not suffer any
Yeah.
penalties for it. So,
But yeah, I think this has been the case. Like you can't use your BSB if he's not in the front rank. You can't use your character's leadership if they're not in the front rank, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, makes sense. Okay.
No. All right, there we go.
Can my unit shoot at an enemy character that is within 3 inches of an enemy unit if that unit is not itself an eligible target? Okay. No. I love it. Yeah, I think it's a legitimate question, right? If I can't see the unit that's supposed to be hiding your character, shouldn't I be able to shoot at it?
Well, or if it's tied in combat,
Yeah, but
and
I
therefore
guess
not
not.
an eligible target either. But now you can't, apparently, because even if they're hiding or if they're engaged in combat and my
Yeah.
character's within 3 inches, you can't shoot him.
Yeah.
So,
Which is a great way to maybe protect your unit, but allow your character to cast spells.
yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty strong.
So, and it's funny because I see characters by themselves less and less as this game. In the beginning of this game, I felt like I saw a lot of lone characters running around.
Yeah.
Within 3 units of a block or whatever the case. But as the game has matured, I feel like this has been less of a situation all of a sudden. But again, I'm in an army with a lot of toughness 3 guys too. So
Yeah, it depends on the army, obviously.
But all right, what else we got here? We go. Can a character that has joined a unit be the target of a spell that would give them a special rule that prevents them from joining a unit, ethereal, for example? And the answer is no. If casting a spell would cause a situation where the rules specifically prohibit, the spell cannot be cast. And I know there's a spell that makes things ethereal. I forget if it's one of the common ones or if it's like vampires or somebody specific in there. But if you're trying to cast a spell on a character that would specifically violate their ability to be in the unit, you can't cast it. Sorry. Again, I don't know where you would do that other than if you don't want your character to be hit in the block, right? So
Yeah. I was trying to look up that spell. I think I remember. Oh gosh,
I forget what it is,
I
but
think it might be a common spell where I don't know, and maybe it's Tomb Kings where you can turn a character ethereal, but he has to be by himself. He can't be in a unit.
yeah, gotta be by himself. You can't do it in a unit. Sorry, guys. Not that we've had that problem, but
no, does not
all
come
right,
up.
there we go.
Some characters have special abilities that require a leadership test. If the character is slain, do these abilities cease to apply immediately? Yeah, of course.
Of course they do.
Of course they do. Oh man, the character's dead. He's not given the ability anymore. All right.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. All right, so here we go. Cannons got interesting.
Again.
Again, yeah. When shooting a cannon, a line of sight is required to the target point. But what about the strike point? A cannon does not require line of sight to the strike point. However, if anything that would stop a cannonball from bouncing, C5 crunch on page 227, lies between the target point and the strike point, the cannonball will hit and stop. In other words, you cannot use a high result of the artillery dice to glitch a cannonball through the impregnable obstacle. I've seen this done before, unfortunately. But
by me? Did I do it?
I don't think it was you necessarily. I don't think it was one of my guys because I remember being at an event that I was playing at. And
okay.
It was a cafe though. Where they glitch that cannon.
That does not surprise me.
where they glitched a cannonball through. I'm like, I don't think you could do that.
Yeah. They think they are in the Matrix or something. They're all just bending bullets and whatever else. I think that's just making sure people aren't taking advantage of the cannon and so forth.
Because it is a funny item in the realm that you don't need a target necessarily, right?
Yep.
You just need to guess what cannonball is going to hit and then how far it's going to go. So it doesn't technically require a target. So here is that. This is insane.
Can a cannon that is on a hill target a point on the ground if woods or buildings or a hill lies between it and that point? No. A cannon cannot shoot over such obstacles, even if it was on a hill. However, a stone thrower can if it chooses to fire indirectly. Or I guess mortar or whatever, any kind of
mortar, as a stone thrower,
indirect fire. Yeah. So this is interesting because usually GW doesn't dictate. I mean, they do, I guess, but this is an interesting rule that I don't know that they've come up with before. Maybe they have. I don't know, but I'm glad that they did, just to make it clear, which means that
hills aren't higher than everything else.
Yeah, you can use terrain a little bit better to hide from those cannons. So I like it. Yep.
Yeah. So, and obviously this was different because it is a blue versus a pink. So, when does a detachment determine which arc of an enemy unit it will charge into when making a supporting charge? When it is moved at the end of the charge moves subphase. I am very new to detachments in the realm because I'm using them a little bit with Renegade Crowns, right? Because that seems to be the only way to do it, and I haven't had this yet.
Okay. So all it's saying is you're going to move. Are you familiar with detachments?
Yeah.
They can make. Okay. So after the enemy has moved, or after the
main block has moved.
Block has moved, then you move the detachment. And so if an enemy charges in, then you get to determine if it's in the flank, and it's most likely going to be in the flank, depending on where you set up your detachment. I think that's what they're trying to clarify, not before the enemy unit is moved.
Yeah.
Because I think you have to declare that they're going to make a counter charge before that.
Supporting charge, whatever it's called. It's a little different, but
I'm glad. I like the detachment rules, and I don't think enough people use them. Besides, maybe, no, I just don't see a lot of people using them. So hopefully this.
There's not too many things in the game that has detachment.
Empire, Cathay,
Renegade Crowns,
Cathay.
Cathay has it.
I think High Elves do.
Dwarves do.
High Elves do.
High Elves do.
Yeah, I believe so. With their, I want to say with their.
I know nothing in the Orc Army has it. So
yeah,
and maybe nothing in Tomb Kings has detachment. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, maybe not as trained as. No, I guess not. They have. Never mind. They don't have it in High Elves. But yeah, there's 4 or 5 armies, but I just don't see a lot of people using it.
Well, and I think it's because we've gone back to what 8th edition was, big mega blocks running across on the battlefield.
Yeah,
away from that a little bit.
Yeah, I try to include detachments with my big blocks of Empire troops, just because it's counted as 1 drop.
Yes,
and that's an advantage, certainly. But
yes, it is. All right, terrain. So to defend a low linear obstacle, this has been argued in the past. To defend a low linear obstacle, a unit must move its front rank into base contact with it. Are skirmishers able to do this, or does their lack of ranks prevent it? Skirmishers can defend a low linear obstacle. To do so, simply move as many skirmishers as possible into base contact with one side of the feature. So this was stated in, I remember this, stated in 1.5, and I guess it just wasn't clear enough that they can do that. And now this is more clear, I guess, is the answer for it. I mean, it's
I think it's just, it says skirmishers rank up whenever enemy come into combat, so that's the rank. And it's the potential's going to be there until the enemy gets there. So
well, but it's in here particularly, like they can defend, so I can move up to a wall, and I just have to line against the wall now. I don't have
to
a skirmish formation anymore. So, but I'm still skirmishing, in a roundabout way. So, and let's see, we got a lot on here. This is the big changes.
Can a character replace the armor with which they come equipped with a lighter magical armor in order to bypass restrictions imposed on other upgrades? A character can replace one type of armor with another. However, for the purposes of any available upgrades, they are restricted based on the type of armor worn. The character is still considered to be wearing the armor they come equipped with.
So, I know what this is trying to do. This is trying to in Chaos, they all come essentially with heavy armor, right? And there's something that you got to have the lighter armor to take to put it on the certain mount or take the ability. So it's asking, do you change the armor out, or do you maintain what you had plus the other stuff? For it. In other words, you can't bypass the restrictions imposed on your previous armor.
Okay.
With it, because I'm trying to remember exactly what it is, but there is an item that says you can't take it if you have this. So what they would do is they would replace it with this lighter magical armor all of a sudden. And to bypass that restriction, and now they're saying you can, but you are still restricted by the type of armor worn. So, yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a complicated wording to say that. It's going to cause arguments, I can already tell you. For the purpose of other upgrades, what types of armor are the armor of silvered steel and the armor of meteoric iron? If a suit of armor gives the armor of 6+, it should be considered light. If it gives the armor of a 5+, it should be considered heavy. And if it gives an armor value of a 4 or better, it should be considered full plate.
Okay.
Straightforward. Okay.
Yep.
Sure. I feel like this last one is a kind of a dumb question.
Does a weapon's AP reduce the armor value of the armor of meteoric iron? No, because that's what it does. No.
That's what it does. It specifically states it does not get reduced in any way.
You cannot reduce it,
So, not that I see that armor running around much, but I mean, because there's better stuff out there for the points. But this one, okay. This is a big change. Whilst drain magic is in play, does it increase the casting value of bound spells? The answer is yes.
Yeah, and so this is interesting, I think, because first of all, it makes drain magic even better.
Yeah.
Certainly, but every bound spell is based on an actual spell.
Yes.
Right?
That's the value of whatever it gives.
So and maybe that was the intent all along with drain magic. I mean, I'm looking it up right now, and drain magic says, whilst this play is in play, enemy wizards that are within 24 of the casting model when attempting to cast a spell must increase that spell's casting value by 2. Although it does specifically say enemy wizard. Yeah.
And bound spells does not make the guy a wizard, technically.
Not necessarily. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a wizard. I get it. It should have said enemy casters.
Yeah. So I think this is a clarification, because it says wizards in the rule, and technically a bound spell is to the item, not to the person. The person isn't casting it. The item is casting it, technically.
Yeah, that's so nice, because it effectively has a really, if the wizard moves or marches 30, 28 to 32 inch bubble of -2 casting
Yeah.
value.
Yeah, well, this also makes you call into question, have we seen almost a fundamental change in what bound spells are all of a sudden?
Well, they keep monkeying around with the bound level 1 versus bound level 3, and then these are not common items anymore. And so, yeah, I think GW is just trying to find its way in what they want bound items to do. You're right. There is something, yeah.
Something's changing in the bound spell category. What it is,
Yeah.
we'll see, because they keep
Yeah.
changing it. All right, so this is more of a note. I think this is a clarification. So, like, if a unit has a limit of 0 to 3 for a specific type character, or 0 to 3 per 1,000 points, how many such units can I field in 2,000 points combined? Then it explains, if you can field up to 3 per character for the first example, you can field up to 6 total in the second example. Combined arms composition rules only restrict units and no other restriction on them. If a unit has any form restriction, it must take precedence. However, note, that a 1+ is not a restriction; it's a minimum requirement. Which I'm only really familiar with like 3 armies that have a requirement on their thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's a tax, right? So, like Bretonnia,
Yeah.
you got to take a Knight of the Realm, and you have to take a peasant unit of some kind.
Yep.
That is a requirement.
Yeah.
The same way. You got to take a thing of spearmen and one other item. I forget what it is, but I don't know too many armies that have a minimum requirement.
Lizardmen, you have to take a 10-man unit of source.
So,
yep. When using domination as a secondary objective, do you get the victory points for having more than double the enemy unit strength in a table quarter if there are no enemy models in that quarter? No. To be more than double the enemy unit strength, the enemy has to have some models in the quarter. If they have none and you do, you gain the victory points for that achievement instead. Yeah. Okay.
Plain and simple. So, plain and simple. All right, guys. So that brings us to the end of our main core rules review. So, guys, pay attention because we do have some stuff coming up. Rock Lobba registration is open. I will put a link below in the description, or I'll cast it here later. But check our Facebook page included and our Discord. There's also registration links there. We're bigger and larger this year, guys. We'll have more tables, more prizes, and more new terrain. Also, hint, you may want to start building baggage trains. By the way, you will need them come Rock Lobba. Anything else, Cody?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Well, guys, we will catch you on the flip side.